Now, an exercise to identify bodies of persons who died in the ghastly Kintampo accident is currently underway at the Jema Staff District Hospital in Kintampo. About 30 people lost their lives in a fatal accident on the Kintampo-Tamale Highway in the Bono East region on Monday morning. Now, although the bodies were burnt beyond recognition, family members are already at the hospital hoping to identify the remains of their relatives. The charred bodies, JoyNews understands, includes a 12-year-old and a police officer. Let's head to the Bono East region to speak to Adum FM's correspondent, Biafia Kenting, who is currently at the Jema Staff Hospital. Biafia, thank you for your time. Tell us, what do we know about the numbers so far of the dead?
Thank you. Like you already indicated, the number remains 31, out of which 29 are completely, we can say that it is tired, and then we can identify 2 of them who were not bent at all. So at the Kintampo South District Hospital, which is at Jema Government Hospital, all the 31 bodies were deposited there yesterday, but in the evening time, the bus driver, the family came and they were able to identify the body because those who retrieved the body had actually notified them because they picked the body right under the tail wheel, so it was marked. So they took the body and they since buried that one. So now we have 30 bodies still sitting at the Kintampo South District Hospital mortuary.
Are there any other families who have turned up at the hospital because their loved ones are missing?
There was a policeman among them, Lance Corporal, who was stationed at Esuhu. The family have also been there. Well, they say actually they are not even interested in identifying whom the body is, but they are convinced that they is among the burnt ones because he had another family member in the car who survived. And so he called on the other families, and they have come. So now all what they are doing is that they're talking to the police to at least see to it that their body has been, they've identified their body, or the body is among those over there. And whatever government will do about it, that is what they are waiting for, that direction. There's another woman who also survived, but he has lost a 12-year-old girl. So they also went to the place with the family, and they've actually identified that 12-year-old girl. But if they will take the body in association to go and bury, or they will allow it for government directives, that is what we don't know. But when they came and identified the body, they said they were going back to the police to report that they've actually identified their body. So far, these are the few ones that we can talk about. Others, when they come, they see the situation is so bad, and then they will go back. What they are just saying is that now it is left with government. Whatever government will want to do with the body, whether to do mass burial or whatever, because they will not be able to even convey the body anywhere, and they have nothing to show to their families that, well, this is the remains of their relatives. So since they are convinced that their families or their relatives were part of the situation or the accident, they have nothing more to do.
Now, we know that there were a number of survivors. How are the authorities working with the survivors to help identify, if possible, those who were on either of the vehicles?
Yes, so the survivors in the bus, in the big bus, which was carrying 13 people, that one had 6 people survived, who were sent to the hospital earlier, but they've all been discharged, including the pregnant woman. So the pregnant woman was also seen at the mortuary today, this afternoon, and they are all looking healthy. So the families have come trying to take them home. So what is keeping that woman is because of the girl who is among the burnt ones, that they want to see what the police will tell them. Other than that, the others, they've gone back to their various destinations because they are affected. And it is only the policeman that this young man who survived is able to identify that is a family member. So
Right.
for the others, we have no idea yet.
Do you know whether the hospital is providing any sort of emotional or mental health assistance to the survivors? They've been through a trauma. Is that part of the treatment they are being given?
To that, I don't know of now. To that, I don't know of now. I don't also know if yesterday at the Kintampo Municipal Hospital something of that sort went on. But when we went there, we saw that they were giving them medical attention, and then I didn't actually see any psychologists. I didn't see any person with that capability talking to them. So I don't know if it was done. I cannot witness to that.
All right. So at this point, we have about 29 bodies that are still awaiting identification. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. So we have 30 bodies. It is only one that has been taken away.
Right. But 2 of them have been identified, which means 29 are yet to be identified. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
All right. Have the authorities given any instructions to members of the public whose family members are missing? Is there any guidelines on how people with missing family members can come to the hospital to see if they can identify anybody?
So like the police and others, they are really, if you interview them, they tell you this is the situation. For the hospital, especially the Jema one, that wasn't the hospital that took care of and it didn't even occur in that particular district. Only that the Kintampo, which is the municipality, their district morgue or the hospital morgue is not functioning well according to what they were saying, and that is why it was conveyed into another district. So that hospital is only now saving the bodies for whatever directions that the police and then maybe political authorities or whatever will tell them. But the administrator of the hospital was also whispering into my ears that last year when similar incident occurred and there was a mass burial, the hospital didn't take part in that very well. They were not so much consulted. So later, their authorities also called them and were calling them. So for now, they are also taking charge that they have brought this number of bodies to them. This number has been taken away. It is left with this. And so if they will want to do mass burial, if they want to do anything, they will have to pass through the hospital administration.
Right.
But as we speak now, there hasn't been any direction from anywhere to them as how to go by the bodies.
All right. Now let's talk about the incident itself. I know investigations began from yesterday. So have we learned anything else about the circumstances that led to the accident?
Well, all what the police, the MTTD, who maybe the technical people are all saying, or what we also, even from the layman's point of view, witnessed is that the bus driver, the bus driver, actually caused the accident. Either he was sleeping and veered off his lane and collided with the other one on its lane. Because you could see that the 207, the driver had tried to avoid the other one, but still he couldn't. So from where the accident occurred, it is so straightforward for everybody to attribute it to the driver or the vehicle of that of the big bus.
How about the fire? How about the fire? Do we now understand what caused it?
On the 207, they could detect that it was carrying a motorcane. And it was believed that the motorcane had some petrol in it. And there was also a gallon that suspectedly was also having the fuel, the petrol in it. So according to the fire, perhaps that might have aggravated the flames, the fire. So fine, anything could have happened to strike the fire, but at how it went, the intensity of it might have been motivated by that fuel in the motorcane.
Very well. I want to thank you very much for your time with us. Afia Kenting is our Adom FM correspondent in the region. Now, transport consultant Cecil Gabra is blaming excess fuel in one of the vehicles for the fire that burnt the victims beyond recognition.
Carry 1 gallon of fuel to travel with. It's against the regulations. You must not do it. And that is why when you go to certain fuel stations like the airport Shell and then you are holding a gallon, they'll tell you, no, we are not going to give you fuel. So that was a violation. You must not carry fuel anywhere, right? Even if there's any emergency, you need to find a solution to it, okay? And I mean, you look at the taxi drivers, they have 1 gallon, and so on, right? But naturally, you cannot hold fuel because anything could happen.
Yeah.
Especially if it's gasoline. I mean, the petrol that we all know. In case of any smell and there's any open fire, boom. So this is what also happened, and that is why everybody was burnt to ashes. I mean, it's really sad. Now, the second thing that you mentioned was overspeeding, right? A lot of drivers do not even understand the markings on the road. Right? I did it with your colleague Israel the other time. If you are driving and then you see broken lines, you only see broken lines on the highway, on a straight road, and that is an information to you directly to tell you that you may overtake. I didn't say you can't overtake. You may overtake if only the road is clear. And therefore, if there's any vehicle coming towards you, right, you cannot. And that is why you always have you may. Right, so in this case, one, the accident happened at dawn. Visibility was very poor, right? And driving in the daytime is very different than driving in the evening, because in the evening colors even change. You see red, and red becomes orange or something else.
Road safety expert Cecil Garbra speaking to me earlier on the AM show. Now, even as we're discussing accidents like the Kintampo one, we're receiving news of another accident this afternoon in Wale Wale on the Bolga-Tamale Road. Let's learn a bit more from Mr. Benjamin Yamusa, who's the acting medical superintendent at Wale Wale Municipal Hospital, where some of the victims were taken. Mr. Yamusa, thank you for your time. First of all, can you tell us some numbers? Do we have any dead? Hello, Mr. Yamusa, can you hear me? Mr. Yamusa, if you can hear me, I want to know if there are any dead from this accident. Right, well, you'll have to forgive us. We're working to reach Mr. Yamusa. This is about an accident which just happened in Wale Wale this afternoon on the Bolga-Tamale Road. Mr. Yamusa, can you hear me? Right, we will return to this story, which is just evolving as we speak, and we'll bring you details shortly. In the meantime, though, stay with us. There's more to come on the Pulse. All right, let's see if we can go back to the line to Mr. Benjamin Yamusa. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me, sir? Mr. Yamusa? All right, we'll return to this. In the meantime, though, there's lots more happening in Ghana. We'll bring it to you now. How, for example, we'll be getting to the details of that accident shortly. But meanwhile, I've been speaking to the station master of the transport yard where the Yutong bus worked regarding the Kintampo accident. Now, he revealed to me that the driver had been overworked before that fateful trip.
It's my driver. The way I trust him, in fact, and the way we also work with each other, we don't have any problem with any. You don't have any problem with anybody in the whole station.
So he's a very good driver.
Master, I'm telling you the truth in the name of God.
Okay. Now one of the passengers says that he was falling asleep.
Come again?
One of the passengers who survived the accident. She is telling us that the Yutong bus driver was sleeping. He was falling asleep.
That one I can't say because what I'm saying that I can't say that one. I'm not inside the car, but I know his character.
So what will he normally do if he's driving and he's feeling sleepy? From what you know about his character, what does he do?
He will park and sleep.
Is that what he normally does?
Yes.
So at this accident happened at dawn. You are saying that he had already traveled once, brought some passengers, traveled again, and this was his third trip?
What I'm saying is, the way I'm respecting him, the way that I know that, the way he's doing his work, it's not the driver that will go today. You see, sometimes somebody will leave Boku today. When he reach Kumasi today, tomorrow, she will load tomorrow again. Tomorrow next is here. He's the one photographer that we are talking about him. With university. When he load here and go, she will make almost 3 days or 4 days before coming back here.
I see. So
that is why I'm saying that I'm respecting him.
Okay, so you were saying that you wrote down the names of the passengers. So do you have the names of the passengers who were in this car?
Yes, I have the lady that who's coming from the the Savon Kari.
All right. Well, let's go back to the phone lines. I believe we now have Mr. Benjamin Yamusa, who's the acting medical superintendent at the Wale Wale Municipal Hospital. An accident that happened just this afternoon has had some casualties brought to the hospital. Let's learn more. Mr. Yamusa, good afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon.
So what can you tell us? First of all, are there any dead from this accident?
With this one, we've not recorded any death. There's no death.
So how many casualties has your hospital received?
They brought in 5.
Okay.
5 people.
What do we know about the circumstances that led to this accident?
Okay, according to the people who rushed from town to the hospital, they said a Yutong bus loaded from Kumasi to Boku failed brakes and ran onto a standby car in Wale Wale at the station there.
Right, so this happened at the station?
At the station, just at the station.
Okay, what are the nature of their injuries?
Right, 2 of the victims have sustained fractures in their left lower limbs. That is a male and a female.
Right.
Then the other one who also has some injuries on the head. Then we have 2 other people who also just sustained some minor lacerations. Those ones, they have been worked on already. And I think they have even left. Well, the 2 of them, they have left the hospital. It was not so serious.
Right. Now, how were they brought in? Was there an ambulance?
Yeah, they came with the national ambulance.
Right.
It was the national ambulance that brought them.
Okay. So tell us, you are learning that the brakes failed. Now,
yes.
Those who were injured, were they all in the Yutong bus, or were there some of them who were just standing by?
Yeah, they said according to what we have heard, they said they were all in the bus.
Right. So
they said yeah.
Okay. At this point, are there any concerns about any of the patients, or are they all stable? What condition are they in?
Yes, they've been stabilized, but we are thinking of referring the 2 who sustained the fractures to Tamale Teaching Hospital.
Okay.
So that is where we are now. They've been stabilized; they are okay, but then with the nature of the fractures, we need to refer them to Tamale Teaching Hospital, where to continue with the care.
All right. Okay, yeah. I want to thank you very much for that update, Mr. Benjamin Yamusa, who is with the Wale Wale Municipal Hospital. 5 casualties were brought in following an accident at the Wale Wale station. It is believed that a Yutong bus, which was en route from Kumasi to Boko, had brake failure and drove into a stationary truck. The 5 have sustained various levels of injury, the most serious being fractured lower limbs of 2 passengers. There might be a need to transfer those 2 to the regional hospital, but that is a decision yet to be made. That's the latest from an accident that occurred just this afternoon in Wale. Now, the conversation about dualizing highways and getting 2 drivers for long journeys has become a proposal to help curb avoidable accidents. My colleague Roland Walker visited the Tamale station here in Accra to gauge the opinions of drivers and passengers alike.
24 hours after that horrid accident was recorded on the Kintampo Road, it brings to mind many of the related issues that JoyNews and the rest of the multimedia channels have been talking about. And we're talking about the campaign Arrive Alive. Now, it also brings to the fore the need for a more concerted effort. But what a better way for us to increase the conversation, the tempo of it, and also enrich what the discussions will be that will influence not only the minds of the ordinary motorists, the drivers, etc., but those who have to enforce regulations, those who have to implement laws, and those even that are occupying the top echelons of Ghana's ministries, departments, and agencies. Look, we're here at the Neoplan station right here in Accra, what you can also call the Odona station, just adjacent. But when the driver starts the journey, the conversation should be about how they can be in one piece. We'll be speaking to officials of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union who are the Neoplan station right here and the Odona adjacent ones, and then also speak to a number of the drivers as well. Name, sir?
I'm Otis.
Otis. And you work with the GPRT?
Yes, please.
And I'm sure that you've worked with as a transporter with all these drivers over the period, won't you say?
Yeah, we've been working with them for some time now.
Okay. And then I also have a number of officials here. Brad, on the member didn't come to say?
Yes, I don't know your
Great. Your friend saying?
A friend Bishop.
Bishop. So that's the Bishop of the Neoplan. This is the Neoplan station, right? Of the Neoplan, Bishop Obinim. What's your friend saying?
No, not fully.
Not fully. Okay, so, but let me start with you, if you can just, so that we can get a proper view of you and give space to Nano for you also to be within the frame. What sort of, as GPRT, education do you give all these drivers, the porters and their mates, etc.?
Thank you. First of all, we would like to say GPRT, we run programs for them, just like last week. There were road safety was here to organize a course, a refresher course for all the drivers just last week. Then next week we also have another program for we the executives and our drivers. We always try to advise them, guide them. You see, when they load from this terminal and they are on the road, they are on their own. But calls and other stuff comes in, which we do call drivers. If they are driving bad on the road, we do call them back to correct them.
So what you're saying is that sometimes you get some responses from the passengers?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Now, let me just avert your mind to the Kintampo accident, and is the newest we have currently. But we know that we've been consistent with the accident, and since January up to now, they've just been piling up. Usually, as an administrator, somebody who interacts and supervises with the drivers, when you hear of such news, what comes to mind?
It's always sad because you never know. I myself, I might be a transporter, but my wife and my children might be on the road traveling. And when this happens to them, whether you are a transporter or any other, you will feel bad because you don't know the people on board. It might be a brother of mine, a sister of mine. So when it happens, first of all, it affects us emotionally as human.
Akwehye sisana te se enradie yi se na homache de no esi wo Kintampo kwan no so no eya mote sana e de na ba modwem ase moye driver for porters ne mate for ne sa anyama no
me ade ba kwan ya na me hu no se ensem ba bi se na se ye ka bibi efa nkwanhia no ho ana se ne e ma esia me hu no se enya ade e ko ba bia ye drivers ne de ye ka ya sema ye be ka bie ne wa ase e ko ba bia ba senka mutie de yen so ye ka no so a e na ban no e boa ye ne a me fin se nka enema betimi atotoye e fi se wohwe bibi ti se drivers a e yusu buses na dodo na ho no ma entua omoka wo so ho entua omoka enam se driver phone ni kama phone ni no obia ni ho no ma oboa drivers de bia asem no ba ya na mo yi agu driver for so hwe from Accra to Boko na driver ni ba akopɛ o sister nanim na o ko Boko
and he is saying that when the incident happened, it looks like those who are heads of authority, and I'm sure even the media is also included because it's a broader conversation when some of these accidents do happen, don't seem to talk for the drivers. Then he zoomed in or transitioned into a discussion about how drivers sometimes are not well paid, and he gave an example of how a driver alone would have to sit in a big bus and drive all the way to Boko, for example.
A driver driving all the way from Accra to, let's say, Boko, normally we advise that the drivers are two, normally, when they are going on such journeys. But you see, these drivers, there's also the issue of this one doesn't trust the other. So let's assume if I give this bus two drivers to take it from Accra to, let's say, Boko, there is a possibility that one of them will say, okay, I'll drive in, then you drive out. Meanwhile, that is not the intent. The intent is to let one drive halfway, then the other continue. But these drivers have their own, in quotes, spiritual issues and other stuff. I will not be okay working with this one. But we will be on the same bus driving to Boko. He thinks probably there's something that you do to take over the car.
But those are just human elements, etc. How do we make sure we streamline some of these things so that this become some policy issues that could run through across all the transport operators, all the relevant stations across the country?
Thank you. I think going forward, GPRTU at the moment is looking at that part, that we will enforce two drivers on board for buses that will be traveling far. That is what we are looking at it. Unfortunately,
Has it come up in any meeting you've attended?
Yes, please. As a matter of fact, when GPRTU were launching the small Toyota buses, we had a small meeting that our regional chairman actually discussed that whenever we are traveling or the bus is on a long journey, we should consider having two drivers instead of a driver and a mate. Why not use two drivers? Then one will act as the mate. Because we have issues where a driver was traveling and he fell sick. The journey was not that long, but we had to send a driver from Accra to Nkoko to go and take. So we are considering having two drivers on board.